Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I want to talk to you tonight about inequalities. We as Americans don't like the concept of an inequality. We want everything to be equal. But there's a power in inequality that improves your life. Power inequality is a fact of life. Nobody's the same. There's inequalities everywhere. The socialists, the progressives are pretending that that's not true. At the same time, they're seeking to establish themselves as the dominant factor in our society. Of course, natural power inequalities of life can be beautiful. For example, a God who is loving and just, having dominion over his creation. It's a beautiful thing because he is loving and just. Parents who are loving and caring for their children. Business owners hiring new employees and treating them with respect. Not because they have to, but just as a matter of course. But we all know there are power inequalities in our society. And these inequalities very often are inappropriate and very often abusive. Abusive because it hurts innocent people. And you can lump abortion in that category. That baby did nothing to deserve this. Or when bad people use force or law to abridge natural rights and liberties. Our courts are filled with the ways people have manipulating the facts and the law around to get something that just everybody knows is not right. And when these kinds of things happen, freedoms are usurped and people are damaged. And it's a fact that more atrocities have been committed within the law than without. For example, democide. That's not a word I've ever heard before. You'd be hard-pressed to define that. But it's defined as murder by government. Think holocausts, genocides, political, religious persecutions, mass killings. Democide has killed more people than wars. More people than plagues and natural disasters combined. Human beings orchestrating mass murder in the name of government. On the other side, there are ennobling and beautiful power inequalities. William Hamnet Wall, an entrepreneur, author, and real estate investor, sales trainer, writes about economic and religious freedoms. You can go to his website. I don't have that right at the moment. He has listed 4 major and important power inequalities that make our lives better. One is that God is over man. That makes our life better. Einstein's famous E equals mc squared proves that matter and energy are interchangeable. Atomic explosions show that energy is embedded in matter and vice versa. Over 100 years later, it's largely been forgotten that E equals mc squared debunks materialism. How? Matter and energy do not die. They are only transfigured into each other. From their origin, no polarity exists between matter and energy. Brian Koberlin explains matter and energy are 2 sides of the same coin. The indestructibility of matter proves the immortality of soul. The material world dying and energy within intelligent design waning are a superstition of atheists and anti-science charlatans. Materialism simply denies the eternal nature of God's creation, while atheism is inconsistent with scientific method. Makes you wonder how or why so many scientists are atheists, although that number is not nearly as high as we are expected to believe. An article in the Scientific American demonstrates just how atheism is inconsistent with the scientific method. It asserts that atheistic communism and democratic socialism are by definition anti-science because they push the fallacy of matter dying, of no life after death, of matter without spirit, and ethics without God. However, when you deny a creator, you're denying God's authority. When you deny God's authority, you deny that morality comes from God. When you deny that morality comes from God, then morality is arbitrary and it's man-made. When you believe that, then the state becomes a god. Socialism becomes a moral code, and tyranny is not very far behind. Virtue allows pleasure and happiness to coexist. And in the end, God will not be mocked. Addiction turns pleasure into despair. It's a truism. Number two, another power inequality, the child over the parent. This philosophy is common in our society today. It never used to be. There is an immutable principle. Whatever you are responsible for endows you with authority over it, limited as it may be. Whether a parent, a general during World War II, or just walking a dog, or house sitting, responsibility engenders authority. This is the tragedy of public school officials providing abortion access to minors without parental consent or knowledge, and liberal indoctrination of young children against the conscience and values of their parents. It is nothing less than an abuse of power that allows parents to retain full responsibility for their children, all the while stripping mothers and fathers of parental authority. A clear overreach of statism over natural rights. It is the spiritual equivalent of taxation without representation. Today, the welfare state is morally bankrupt because it bribes vulnerable single mothers to normalize broken homes and incentivizes them to have children out of wedlock, purging their homes of a father influence. It is done more often than not because the fathers are so useless. But from a child's perspective, a fatherless home is a tragedy. Thirdly, there is the spouse over spouse. The Bible tells us that Jesus obeyed the will of his heavenly Father, yet was equal in every way, including in power and divinity. Every day, traffic signs command us to stop, go, yield, and no one imagines them to be our superior. Do we not obey a 16-year-old ride attendant demanding that we wait behind the yellow line for the next roller coaster car? Dominance happens every moment of every day in every area of life. When we voluntarily accept another's authority or knowledge, it doesn't suggest inequality. According to Marcus Buckingham, author of Go Put Your Strengths to Work, he says advances in neuroscience and brain development prove that by 5 years of age, a superhighway of talent emerges in one area to the exclusion of all other skills. Therefore, it makes sense to build on our strengths and manage around our weaknesses. Therefore, what is called inequality in marriage is often just a divergence in talents. In what world is the specialization of labor inherently unfair? Imagine a squirrel marrying a dolphin. Would you say one is better at gathering acorns or catching fish? The beauty of honoring a partner's strengths becomes clear and humane as we think in these terms, which are rational. Let the person with natural talents in an area take charge of it. Defer to another's strengths, expertise, or stronger desires, so long as they're not aggressive or belittling in the process. What about the drudgery? Well, drudgery is a team sport because gender is irrelevant when it comes to drudgery. Why? As Buckingham explains, if something saps your strength, even if you're good at it, it's a weakness. Number 4, capitalism over democratic socialism. Capitalism, by its very nature, prevents slavery by allowing labor to benefit the one who toils. Mutually beneficial transactions allow wealth to be earned without using force and automatically creates wealth without imposing socialism or imperialism. Freedom creates wealth. Socialism depletes wealth. Socialism reaps, but it cannot sow. It cuts down a forest, but it can't plant a tree. Socialism proves that dependency cannot grow and poverty decrease at the same time. Socialism proves that even charity cannot dignify force. A welfare state is not compassionate because it requires force, not applied to the recipients, but to those who are taxed in order to pay for it. And nothing is so beautiful that force cannot uglify. Add force to a beautiful work and it becomes slavery. Add force to sex and it becomes slavery and rape. Why is income inequality in free markets so beautiful? Because it is generated by choosing good products, customer service, and a convenient distribution model, as opposed to having the government create one for you.